What's up guys, Eric Oakley here. We're gonna be talking about forehands. I absolutely love this shot and I wanna improve your accuracy, your distance on these forehands. So I'm gonna give you 5 tips that work for me and hopefully they'll work for you. So starting off with the first tip, it's all about the tuck. Getting as much surface area on the disc is really important. So we're talking about grip here. The tuck is important. We're really trying to push into this cup of our hand. The other part is you're gonna put a lot of pressure, more than likely on your middle finger. If you go with the stack grip, it's probably gonna be applied to both fingers, but more often it's putting pressure on that middle finger. That surface area is gonna allow the disc to rip from your hand. That friction acting against the disc is gonna get it spinning a lot faster, giving you a cleaner release, which will increase your distance. So the second tip we're gonna talk about with increasing the distance on a forehand is the angle of release. This is really important because it's way more important than any power you put into the shot, because if it's on a bad angle, you could throw it at 100 miles an hour and it's really not gonna go anywhere. So what we really wanna focus on is getting that nose angle down, especially on the power shots. And then whatever type of disc you're using, you need to really focus on that angle. So maybe it might be slightly over, flat, or hyzer. And once we get that point of release, you're just gonna add distance to your shot. Because more often what happens is you go to throw and you're trying to throw it flat, comes out with a little bit of hyzer. Trying to throw it flat, rolled your wrist and pulled it over. So if you can really hyper focus on that angle, you're gonna get a lot more consistency and gain distance. So the third tip kind of ties into the angle of release, but we're gonna be focusing with more understable discs or more neutral discs. This helps you gain distance while letting the disc do the work. I am a huge fan of the Raider. For some, the Raider might be overstable, so I would highly suggest a trespass. And if you want something a little slower than the Raider, but flies very similar, I would check out the Sergeant. It's a really comfortable feel in the hand and has a great flight. So when choosing these understable discs, we're getting them on the correct angles, but again, we're letting the disc do the work. More often than not, with forehands, you see people forcing the discs and trying to make them work for you rather than letting them work for you. I know that can be a little cliche, but these things want to fly. We don't need to force them to fly, we need to let them fly. My longest flying forehand disc is my most beat up Raider, and I release it with a small amount of hyzer, let it pull up to flat, maybe peel to the left with a nice easy fade back to the center of the fairway. Helps me in the woods, helps me from a standstill, and I'm not ever overthrowing. So what happens when we throw those more overstable discs, they're really just trying to get to the ground and fight out of the shot as soon as possible. So more often than not, you're kind of losing distance at the end. Where if you have something that wants to push forward, like a Sergeant or a Raider, they're gonna keep flying forward. Where if we're throwing an enforcer, maybe a felon, they're gonna be falling more to the right. Now that's not necessarily bad, you have to kind of choose which shot you're looking for, but with those overstable discs, it takes a lot more energy to get that distance. And if we want easy distance and we want to be consistent, we want to be throwing as smooth as possible. So the fourth tip is probably the most important. More often we see players throwing with only their arm. That is going to cause a lot of issues for the elbow and the shoulder. What we really want to see is incorporating your legs into the throw. So really coming from your back leg and powering through and letting it be a pushing motion rather than a throwing motion. You push off of this back leg, brace on your front leg, and snap with your core. Once we do all those things, your arm is acting as a sling. There is going to be some, on a forehand less than a backhand, there is still going to be some of this motion and throwing motion in the arm. But if you've done a lot of work from your lower body, you're going to incorporate a lot more energy and your arm is going to have to do less to send that disc. So the final tip is going to be a reiteration of that fourth tip. You've got to be smooth when you throw. So if we've incorporated our lower body, we've got the right disc in our hand, we're releasing on a good angle, we've tucked that thing into our cup over here, we are ready to throw this disc. So we want to be as smooth as possible. The less energy we are exerting that is not going into the throw, the better. So I don't want to be overthrowing and wobbling the disc out. I want it to come out nice and smooth. The smoother we get the disc out, the better it's going to fly. And again, I've talked about this so many times in my forehand videos. Practice with your slower speed, understable discs. It will make you better. That's how I gained my distance, and I still use understable discs from all the way from mid-ranges all the way up to high-speed drivers. Using those has made my forehand game super versatile, and I've been able to attack any course I play on tour. I want you guys to do the same, so get out there, practice, work with being smooth, work with your angles, get your lower body involved, and you guys are gonna find some great success with the forehand.